I paid for the family reunion, showed up to an empty house, turns out they had it without me. The next day, after 67 missed calls, they realized I'd also stopped paying their mortgage. Hey everyone. Before we kick off today's video, I've got a favor to ask. We've noticed our channel isn't getting as much love lately, and subscribing is one of the easiest ways you can help us out. It's quick, free, and it means we can keep bringing you awesome content. Your support really means a lot, so let's work together to keep this channel growing. Thanks a bunch. Now, let's dive into the video. Hey, I'm Marcus, 32 years old. Up until a few months ago, I was that guy in the family who seemed invisible unless it was time for someone to mooch money. You know, the quiet, single, reliable type. I've got a solid tech job, no kids, no huge expenses, basically, the stable one. That was code for the person they could lean on without much protest, and they were right. I never caused a scene, like when my sister Julia forgot to pay me back after I covered her apartment down payment, or when my cousin Tyler crashed at my place for months, only to leave without a word or rent money. Even when my parents asked me to co-sign their second mortgage after Dad's business failed, I just nodded and went along with it. But recently, things changed. It started with our annual family reunion. We rotate hosting duties, and since my house is pretty nice, with a pool and spacious yard, the family decided it should be at my place. The first year, I went all out, catered barbecue, kids' games, even a bounce house. No one offered to chip in, but hey, that's family, right? The next year, I did it again, though there were more grumbles about drink choices and no vegan options. Still, I kept quiet. This year, I suggested a change, a weekend getaway in the mountains on me. Everyone loved the idea. My mom even called me, saying she was proud I was stepping up to bring the family together, as if hosting 2 reunions and shelling out for Christmas didn't count. But I brushed it off. I found a fantastic lakeside cabin, 6 bedrooms, game room, kayaks, the whole deal. It cost a bit, but hey, I'm the stable one. I organized everything, sent invites, even created a Google Doc with directions, room assignments, and dietary needs. I was genuinely pumped, thinking this year might be different. It wasn't. The reunion was set for the second weekend of June. I ducked out of work early that Friday, grabbed all the supplies, and made the 3-hour drive. I even picked up Mom's favorite decaf tea since she complained about headaches from other brands before. I got there, set everything up, and waited. I texted everyone, saying how awesome the place was and that I couldn't wait for them to see it. No response. Hours went by. I thought maybe they were just late. It wouldn't be the first time. So, I started grilling, had a drink, and played some music, trying to stay upbeat, but something felt off. Then I called my mom. She picked up, all laughs, saying, "Oh honey, you actually went?" I was confused. "What do you mean? I've been here 2 hours. Where is everybody?" She casually laughed it off, saying they had it the day before so it would be less awkward because of how stiff I supposedly am. They thought it was easier and assumed I'd prefer it that way. I didn't cry or get mad, I just stood there, feeling like an idiot. I packed up and drove home quietly, shoving groceries in the fridge before crashing in bed. The next day, my phone blew up with 67 missed calls. When I walked away from the reunion, I stopped covering their mortgage because, you see, that mortgage I co-signed. I had been secretly paying it for nearly 2 years. My parents were supposed to take over the house payments after 6 months, but they ran into some trouble and couldn't. I didn't want their house to get foreclosed, so I just kept handling it. But this time, I dropped the ball. I'd usually set up the payment manually, but I didn't log in or call the bank. I did nothing. Then, the phone calls started pouring in like the house was about to burn down. As I lay in bed, I just watched the messages roll in. "Marcus, please call us. It's not funny. We didn't mean to hurt you. Can we talk?" The best was from Julia, telling me to grow up. I put my phone down, made some coffee, and enjoyed a quiet morning on the patio, listening to the birds. It hit me then, being the stable one felt more like being the family doormat. It wasn't the end, though, not by a long shot. They didn't even know I was covering more than just the mortgage. I was also paying for home insurance, property taxes, and smoothing over HOA issues. After my dad's business went south, he built this crazy custom iron mailbox with flames on it, which the HOA hated. I handled it with a lawyer friend. They had no clue because I never said anything. I just kept doing it all, until I didn't. When I skipped the mortgage payment, it set off a chain reaction. The bank called me on Monday, all polite, asking if I'd be making the payment. I said no. There was this pause, and the lady on the other end just accepted it. She told me without payment, the account might default soon. I thanked her, hung up, and turned off my phone for the day. Meanwhile, my family's group chat, which I hadn't looked at since the reunion, was going nuts. A friend who was still in the chat started sending me screenshots. Julia was freaking out, thinking I'd let mom and dad lose the house over a change in reunion dates. Uncle Darren thought I was weird. And then my mom chimed in, saying, I didn't raise Marcus to be spiteful. She said I was sensitive and just throwing a tantrum. A tantrum? After years of paying their bills and dealing with their issues, I was done. I didn't respond. I just sat with it all. The next day, I met with my financial advisor. I'd been saving up for a small property in the city, maybe a rental. But when she asked if I still wanted to go through with it, I decided to liquidate the joint account I'd set up for the house payments. I needed to stop babysitting. I pulled out the funds, not out of spite, but to finally make decisions that benefited me for once. Then came the emails. My dad sent one, full of guilt-ridden lines like we never meant to push you away and family doesn't keep score. That last part really got me. I never kept score. Not when Julia needed help with tuition at 2 a.m., not when Tyler needed money to avoid jail. Not when mom called about the leaking roof. I didn't keep score. So, I've always been the guy who just keeps on giving, you know? But then I decided to hit the brakes, and suddenly, everyone was acting like I owed them something. It was wild. A week went by, then another, and that's when the bank started foreclosing on the house. My sister Julia tried calling me, but I just ignored it. Tyler shot me an email, and I left it sitting in my inbox. Even my dad sent an old school letter, and yep, I didn't open it. Then came the real shocker. I was chilling at this coffee shop one morning, savoring a cinnamon scone with my earbuds in, trying to blend into the background, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Aunt Carol. She's one of the few good ones in the family. I mean, she used to sneak me ginger cookies at Christmas even when my mom was on a no more sugar rampage. Her message was just, you might want to check Facebook. So, naturally, I did. My mom had gone all out on a public post, writing about how she raised me with love and all that, only for me to supposedly turn my back when she needed me. It went viral, with thousands of likes and a flood of comments from neighbors, church friends, even her old college buddy backing her up. It was like watching a train wreck of sympathy for her, the same person who once laughed at me over the phone at a family reunion I had funded. At that moment, something just clicked inside me. I wasn't mad or sad anymore, I was just done with it all. Things were going to change, and they had no idea what was coming next. I didn't bother replying to her post. No comments, no messages, nothing. I didn't even try to explain my side to all the strangers now involved in our family drama. Instead, I took a screenshot and saved it in a desktop folder labeled closure, and continued with my day. But the wheels in my head were turning. They seemed to forget, or never realized, that when I co-signed the mortgage, I became a part owner of the house. Yep, I had as much claim to that place as they did. I had been the one helping them live there, paying their bills, and even funding their fancy kitchen makeover plans to boost the house's resale value. They thought of me as some invisible safety net, and now they were getting hit with the reality of how much they relied on me. Foreclosure isn't some instant thing. It's a lengthy process filled with notices, grace periods, negotiations, you name it. I didn't want to drag it out or ruin their lives, I just wanted my share back. So, I hit up a lawyer, laid out the whole situation, and asked what I could do to withdraw my stake in the property. She listened, then leaned back and told me something I hadn't considered. Well, she said, you've been more generous than most, but if you want to send a clear message, you could file for partition. I was like, partition? Turns out, it's a legal move that forces the sale of jointly owned property. Since they couldn't afford to buy me out, I could make them sell. It sounded harsh and a bit cold, but honestly, it felt right. I wasn't doing it out of spite but to regain control of what was mine. So, I filed the paperwork. 3 days after submitting it, I finally cracked open the family group chat that had been collecting dust in my phone. The last message was from Julia, whining about how someone needed to make me grow up. I didn't bother with her. I just sent a simple message, the mortgage isn't your biggest problem. Check your mail. No signature, no frills, just a heads up. And oh boy, did it set off fireworks. My phone was blowing up with missed calls and voicemails, even from my dad, who hadn't reached out directly in a year. His message was all pleading like, Marcus, please. This is too much. There's got to be another way. Julia shot over a long email titled, You're literally tearing this family apart, and Tyler bombarded me with calls before texting, I'll pay you back what I owe. Just don't do this to mom and dad. And, of course, mom had to post another status, knocking me for using contracts and courts instead of facing up to family issues. No amount of legal action will undo the damage you've done, Marcus, she wrote. Classic. I saved that post, too, for old time's sake. The court date rolled around, and they showed up looking like a mess, tired, angry, and a bit lost. My lawyer was cool and in control. The judge listened, checked the documents, and ruled in my favor. The house was going to be sold. So, I figured I'd get my part. They had 90 days to move out, and that's when things got really quiet, not the passive-aggressive silence or the cold shoulder I was used to when I didn't laugh at one of Dad's jokes or forgot to bring deviled eggs to Thanksgiving. This was a deeper, emptier silence. For the first time, they had nothing to say to me. I didn't throw a party or brag. I just took a deep breath. It's a weird feeling, realizing the people who raised you only liked you when you were helpful. It makes you rethink everything, your memories, your choices, your self-worth. But it also pushes you to look inside, rebuild, and figure out who you are beyond just obligations. In the weeks after, I started saying no more often. No to being the go-to contact for people who never reached out unless they needed something. No to funding family get-togethers where I was treated like the unwanted guest who happened to finance everything. No to guilt-trip birthdays, passive-aggressive family dinners, and whispered gossip about how I'd changed, because I had. Or maybe I just stopped pretending. Then, just when things started to calm down, I heard a knock at the door. It was early evening, the sun was dipping behind the trees. It was my mom, looking tired in an old cardigan, holding a manila envelope. She looked at me like I was a stranger. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I stood there for a while, hand on the door, feeling the weight of all those years between us, being the good son, the easy one, the reliable one. Birthdays spent on the sidelines, holidays paid for but barely acknowledged, and reunions that felt more like duties than celebrations. It all hung between us in a few silent seconds. Then I stepped back and opened the door, not because I wanted her to come in, but because I wanted to hear what she had to say, an excuse, an apology, or whatever truth she brought. She moved slowly, unsure if she was welcome, and set the envelope down like it might burn her. I didn't offer coffee or a seat. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, and waited. Mom wrung her hands, a nervous habit I remembered from childhood when I'd be scolded for small things like forgetting my lunch or not smiling enough in family photos. "I didn't come to fight," she finally said. I stayed quiet. "We didn't realize how much we leaned on you," she continued. I raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. "You never complained, you always helped. We thought you liked being needed." I almost laughed, not because it was funny but because it was so backward. I liked being part of the family, feeling valued. But being valued for being used? That wasn't love, that was survival. "You didn't just lean on me," I said quietly. "You stood on me. And when I couldn't hold up anymore, you made me feel like I was the problem." Her face crumpled a bit, she looked smaller than I remembered. "We were wrong," she whispered. I was wrong. For a moment, a brief moment, I almost let that touch me. Almost forgot the years I felt like an ATM with a heartbeat, the wedding gifts never thanked for, graduation parties never invited to, vacations they boasted about, knowing I wasn't included but expected to chip in. "What's in the envelope?" I asked instead. "The house sold," she replied, sliding it toward me. Inside was a check, my cut of the sale, minus fees and taxes, a decent chunk, enough for a house down payment, a year's travel, or a smart investment. I held it in my hands. This wasn't an apology or closure, just money. "Thanks," I said simply, tucking the envelope into a drawer. She lingered, hoping this was an olive branch, that we could gloss over everything with sad eyes and a check. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. "Mom," I said quietly, "you're not a villain. I know that. You're not evil. You didn't wake up every day thinking, 'How can I hurt Marcus today?'" She blinked, maybe surprised, maybe relieved. But I added, "Good people can still do crappy things when they're careless, selfish, assuming someone else will always be there to clean up the mess." So, there I was, in the middle of this mess, wanting to say something, but words just didn't come out. "You can apologize," I managed to continue, "and I'll accept it. I believe you're truly sorry." A tear rolled down her cheek, but I didn't rush to wipe it away. "But here's the kicker, just because you're sorry doesn't mean things will go back to how they used to be." She flinched, almost like I slapped her, but really, it was more of an emotional hit. "You see, for people like my mom, the worst thing isn't when you yell at them or cut them off or even call them out. The worst is when you take away their access to you, they're guaranteed fallback, no matter how much crap they put you through. I love you, I told her honestly, but I'm not going back to that old way of living. I'm not your personal bank anymore or the one who's always easy to deal with. I'm just me now. You're gonna have to decide if that's enough. She nodded slowly, like every little move was painful. Okay, she whispered, and that was it. We stood there, awkward and kind of broken, but real in a way we hadn't been before. Then, without saying more, she walked out. When that door shut, I didn't fall apart crying or doubt myself. I didn't even feel empty. I just felt kind of free. The months after that were quieter than I'd ever known. No more frantic holiday calls asking me to cover catering bills. No late night panics about bounced checks. No birthday guilt trips attached to Venmo requests. I moved into a new place, a cute little townhouse closer to the city. It's got this cozy balcony and there's a coffee shop nearby where they knew my order by the third visit. I began traveling a bit too, nothing crazy, just weekend trips to check out new cities and hiking trails I'd been meaning to explore for ages. I learned to just sit with myself and not feel like I only have value when someone needs me. The wildest thing? The friends I kind of neglected while always tending to family stuff got back in touch. We went out for drinks, had some laughs. Some even said sorry for fading away, they didn't know I was always dealing with problems that weren't mine. I didn't rebuild ties with my family, but I didn't shut the door either. Every now and then, I'd get a text from Julia with a pic of her kids or a simple hope you're doing well. Tyler even sent me a Christmas card, just my name on it, no pressure, no hidden messages. Even Mom would text sometimes, just a thinking of you. And honestly, that was enough because I learned something big through all this. Family isn't about obligations, blood ties, or staying quiet to keep the peace. Real family is about respect, about being there because you want to be, not because you feel guilty or pressured. I had to lose everything I thought I had to see it clearly. And in losing the old version of my family I clung to, I found something way better, I found me.